Okay, hello everybody. How you guys doing? Thank you all for joining. My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? We are beginning today. Have a lot of stuff to talk about, and none of it is pleasant, unfortunately. Let me see here. Why is this all wacky? Why is everything so wacky here? I don't understand why it's wacky. Okay, getting started. So before we start, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and then let's take a look at what we're working on. We have our little witch character, which I'm debating whether or not I should like erase the mask and actually draw a face for her, but I think the mask makes it look slightly creepy. I don't know. Not really digging this background here, so I think we're just gonna erase some of this stuff. Let's just get rid of that. And we'll keep the rest of this, and then I kind of sketched another little background thing, and we'll just add that to the back here. Where the hell is it? Where's my other thing that I sketched? It's not here. I don't see it. What's up with that? Anyway, I guess we can just open that again. So yeah, there was a another mass shooting, this time at a bar in Colorado, which we got to talk about this because, it just seems like this just keeps happening over and over and over. And no matter how many times, how many people die. And let's see here. That's about, hmm, we may need to like arrange some things here. Well, I guess that is in the background, right? It doesn't look right exactly, but why don't we make that a little bit bigger? See, I drew a little sort of, bookshelf and stuff. And we may need to do some creative editing here. Anyway. Yeah, we got to talk about it because it is, a problem that just doesn't seem to go away. Now, I'm sure you've all heard about what happened at the Club Q shooting in Colorado. A maniac broke in with a rifle and a pistol and shot 23 people. Five of them died. 17 of them were injured. And it is not a good time all around. So let me just bring this up. This is a bat right there. Okay. Let's turn off the bat for a minute. And let's bring this layer right there. Okay. And then turn on our witch. And let's see, how are we going to arrange this? See, I wanted to put this little table with like a crystal on it, but debating whether or not I should keep this sort of thing. Maybe I'll keep the weird instruments for now, and we'll keep the weird instruments and not the table. So let me just get rid of this. I was just sort of like experimenting around with some stuff. Anyway, so here's the thing, folks, right? Here, let's call that layer table. This is, of course, not the first time a madman has decided to go target specifically LGBTQ people for a mass shooting. That almost embarrassingly happens all the time in the country. This is not a unique thing. That's happened multiple times over the years, right? Seems to be unique in this one is what makes this one particularly, I can never say that right, despicable, is that first off, it's the direct result of the last probably year or so of direct messaging from conservatives and alt-right people, and eventually the mainstream Republican Party. This is, the last year and a half where they've been calling everybody groomers, where they've been basically demonizing trans people, passing laws against trans kids so that they can't, use the correct bathrooms or compete in sports, that kind of thing. Um, all of these morons like, Steven Crowder and all those other people making video after video going after like drag queen events, for example, these drag queen story hour type things, stuff like that, calling them groomers, you know, uh, and it didn't take long for that to sip into the mainstream. And here's the reason why that happened, right? The reason why are the right wing so, I guess, why is it so popular on the right wing to target trans people in general? But it seems to be more of a, mainly trans people, but also anti-gay people. It's an anti-gay thing. It's basically anyone who isn't straight. They're accusing of being a groomer, being a pedophile, essentially. And why did they choose that area of attack, right? Why did they choose to bring that up, to attack trans people, to attack gay people as their latest target in their one-sided culture war, right? It's because abortion is no longer a wedge issue. So for 40 years at this point, right? Probably more than 40 years. I can't remember exactly when Roe v. Wade was enacted, right? But ever since then, support for abortion, mainstream support for abortion has been growing and growing and growing, right? And it really is only a very, at this point, small segment, roughly 30-35% of the electorate, right, who doesn't support abortion, right? Support for abortion is at like 70%. It's really, really high in the United States, right? So, but these, the right wingers in this country, the Republicans, the conservative Christians, they went on a very long project in order to get Roe v. Wade overturned. And they finally did it. They finally, sort of like the Dalmatian that catches the car, right? That goes out and catches it, and they go, well, now what am I going to do? Okay. And what ends up happening is that, well, lo and behold, it just so happens that support for abortion is extremely high among Republicans, not just Democrats, not just liberals, not just progressives. It's also extremely high among Republicans and conservatives, right? And nothing exemplified that more than this past, not this past midterm, but there was an election in Kentucky in order to basically take away abortion rights, and people in Kentucky voted to keep abortion, right? And during that same election, Kentucky remains a red state. The governor's red, the senators are red, red through and through, right? And during that election, Republican politicians won in that election, right? Many of those politicians who were um, anti-abortion were reelected and stuff like that, right? But the measure to remove abortion in Kentucky, to outlaw it in Kentucky, failed, and it failed spectacularly, right? And so that kind of makes you wonder, how did that happen? How did conservatives go vote and vote for other conservatives to remain in office and not vote to outlaw abortion? And it's because, especially when all of the exit polls said they did, and when all of the polling said they were going to, why did that happen? And it's because, well, people were basically lying. People were saying, telling the pollsters and stuff that, yeah, I'm gonna vote to overturn abortion, and then when they go to the polls, they voted the wrong way. They voted the other way, right? Why is that? Because they're there with their friends and their family, and they secretly are in support of abortion, and they don't want their friends and their family to know it, because abortion is a very personal issue, and you run the risk of of alienating your friends and your family if you vote the wrong way with that if you're conservative, right? That's what happened. Because in real life, support for abortion is super high, even among conservatives. Even among conservatives. And they won't, the thing is that they're just not admitting it. They're just not admitting to their friends and their family that they support it, right? Republicans can't rely on that anymore. That election proved it. They know that, okay, well, if we run a candidate that's against abortion, he's going to lose, right? So they had to find another wedge issue, right? And frankly, the Republicans are quickly running out of wedge issues. Most people in the country support abortion. Most people in the country support legal immigration, like for example, a path to citizenship for children, people who are brought over here as children, stuff like that. Most people in the country support that. Most people in the country support things like, access to health care for poor people and higher taxes for rich people, stuff like that. It's because traditional conservative policies are extremely unpopular. Kelly, thank you for joining. Governor's Kentucky is a Bishar, a Democrat. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I mean, the point is though, is that during that last election, it's not like the Democrats sweeped or anything like that. That's my point. It's like it's no, plenty of conservatives were reelected to Kentucky. It's still very much a red state, but they didn't vote to they didn't vote to overturn abortion, and like that's like the number one up until that point, the number one conservative issue that many conservatives. It's like there's two issues for conservatives: guns and abortion. Like that's it. Those are really the only two things they care about. Like or well, to put it this way, those are the highest like polled issues that conservatives care about. The Second Amendment and abortion, right? And it just seems like abortion has fallen off that list, right? So what do they decide to replace that with in order to get people out to the polls if outlawing abortion ain't gonna do it no more? Well, somebody out there decided that attacking trans people and gay people was the way to go about that. And it seemed like it was working for a while. If you go on conservative Facebook, right, if you go on places like Parler and Getter and all that, and you see things like, libs of TikTok on Twitter, stuff like that, it's one anti-trans meme after another. One after another. And it seems to be a very particularly favorite pastime amongst conservatives now to basically just make fun of the sort of stereotypical blue haired I guess progressive type. You know what I mean? The young woman with blue hair and a nose ring or whatever who's telling you that she has some weird personal pronouns or whatever, something like that. That seems to be a thing that conservatives really like to make fun of all the time. And you just meme after meme after meme of that. People posting all of this BS about like, made up stories about drag queens fucking grooming children and they've effectively co-opted that word groomer. Because here's the thing, right? Grooming is a real thing. Okay, it's when you take a child and you mentally prepare them for sexual abuse, right? Which may or may not happen until they're 18. That's also grooming when you just get a kid and you prepare them and you all the stuff and then they turn 18 and then you date her. That's grooming. But it can also be a lot more nefarious than that. It can involve, underage, bad stuff that I don't want to really get into, right? But you all know what it is. Well, that's a real actual problem. And the conservatives and the Republicans and the Tim Pool types, pundits and that kind of thing, have effectively changed the meaning of that word. And to them, it just means any sort of activity that is a pro LGBTQ activity. And this is why you see them at Pride. You see right wingers and Proud Boys and shit at Pride events. Threatening to beat people up, saying you're all a bunch of groomers because there's kids at Pride events and stuff like that. Or drag queen story hour. Okay, When you hear that drag queen story hour, on the surface, it sounds like it's something naughty, doesn't it? Because we associate drag queens with drag shows, which are usually for adults. They're usually full of sexual jokes and stuff like that, right? But there's nothing inherently sexual about drag queens, not really. It's just somebody that dresses up in a flamboyant manner. You know, not all drag queens are gay, even. I mean, there are also drag people that dress in drag who are also female, like who were, born female. You know what I mean? Like who dress them in drag. It's like it's not, it's the conservatives are the ones who are implying that it's, you know, 100% sexual, and that if your kids are anywhere next to it, then that's tantamount to child abuse, and that's just simply not true. It's not true at all, right? They're the ones that are doing it. Why? Because discrimination against gay people, discrimination against trans people is one of the few things that is still mainstream in this country, right? It's still mainstream. You can still crack gay jokes and trans jokes and stuff like that, and it's not taboo yet. You can get away with it on TV and shit like that. It's getting, each year that goes by, it gets a little more, you stop seeing stuff like that, and that's because of the efforts of activists. Activists are getting, are changing the social zeitgeist or whatever to make it not okay to make fun of people like this, right? But in conservative circles, that's still very much a thing. And it's because the power of bigotry trumps all when it comes to conservatism. They need another enemy. This is the latest enemy that they can hate on, right? And thus drive people to the polls. And the thing is that it didn't work this time. Didn't work during the midterms, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have side effects, right? What happens when you spend a year telling people that gay people and trans people are basically the spawn of Satan, that they're controlled by demons, and it's all a plot in order to, like, a satanic plot in order to get your child to chop his dick off. Like, what happens when that happens? What happens is that somebody out there is going to do something very violent, right? Because you have to think about it like this. Imagine if you were one of those people, right? Imagine, first off, it's all they sort of prey on religious people, right? It's not a coincidence that a very large number of conservatives are also super religious. And the reasons for that we could spend another 2, 3 hours talking about, right? That's not a coincidence, right? And the religious right is an institution that goes back, 60 years at this point, right? But the fact is that they are, and as such, they are very, predisposed to sort of drinking the Kool Aid, right? So when you listen to somebody like Matt Gaetz or whatever tell you that the Democrats are brainwashing your kids into mutilating themselves, and then you go to church and your preacher tells you the same fucking thing essentially, and you actually do believe this stuff, it's only a matter of time before somebody decides they need to take matters into their own hands, right? It's not a coincidence also that people like Nick Fuentes and claims to be super highly, like, super religious, even though he isn't in real life. Nick Fuentes is not religious at all. He's a fucking, basically using that as a it's just to fucking, like, get people to watch him and shit, right? The guy doesn't give a fuck. But it's so. But imagine if you were a true believer, you would feel like it's sort of like your God-given duty to stand up and protect the children. And when you have preachers saying stuff like, "Yeah, these people deserve death," right? You know, what do you think's gonna happen? The word for that is stochastic terrorism, right? When you watch, Tucker Carlson every night get up and say that, these trans people are grooming your children and brainwashing them, and like and it's like and then you go to church and the pastor is saying that demons are infecting their minds for Satan and making them turn against God, and that's why boys are wearing dresses and shit. Like when you hear about that, and then you like go on the news and fucking Ron DeSantis is like saying, we're striking back by like outlawing, teachers are not allowed to even mention the fact that they're gay anymore. Like when you see all of this shit, and you start thinking like, well, if I don't do something about this, God is gonna hate me when I die, right? And lo and behold, that's not a long, it's not a stretch for some maniac to show up and like fucking murder 15 people with a fucking, rifle and shit. So that's why it fucking happened. This is why it's happening. It's basically because Republicans and conservatives needed an enemy because abortion wasn't doing it for them anymore, right? And even though it didn't work, even though the election came and went, and they didn't get the payoff from their investment, that doesn't change the fact that crazy unhinged people are going to basically fucking like listen to the voices in their heads and shit and go out and kill people, right? So a little bit about this event, okay? So this was at a bar, um, which announced a sort of event. Like it announced like a story type hour event, but this didn't happen. There were no children present when this maniac went in there to like do his thing, right? And here, let's make that a little bit bigger because what I need to do is this. We're going to do the pen thing, and then we're going to come down here and get this and kind of bend it a little bit. You get the, let's see, convert point tool, and you can drag on this little thing like that, and it makes your line all bendy. There you go. And then let's just do stroke. Oh, not that one. Cancel that. Stroke path. Kapow. Don't want pencil. We want the brush. There we go. And then you can come down here and just move it over a little bit. Stroke it again. There. Now let's delete the path. And now we have two nice little lines that are like all straight and don't look all funky, right? So if you look at it from that size, that actually looks a lot better, don't you think? Okay. Anyway, so the perpetrator was a 22-year-old boy. I am loath to call this person a man, but I guess he was an adult. 22-year-old overgrown man-child named Anderson Lee Aldrich was his name. He was born Nicholas Brink was his birth name. Apparently, the reason why the guy changed his name is because of online bullying. So the life of Anderson Lee Aldrich, aka Nicholas Brink, is not a very happy life. It kind of sounds like the guy had a very shitty upbringing and a shitty young adulthood, to be honest. Um, he says online bullying is why he changed his name, and he actually has a page on the Encyclopedia Dramatica. So, if you guys don't know what that is, Encyclopedia Dramatica is kind of like where people go to make fun of lol cows. It's sort of like I'm not I don't really know the history of it in and out, but it's a site where people make fun of other people and 4chan and all this other shit. They get together and they kind of document interesting people on the internet. Locals is what they call them, right? Anyway, he has a page there which is actually still up. Damn it. That's what we want is pixels. There we go. And yeah, of course they call the guy a pedo and all this other stuff, but since everybody there, they call everybody a pedophile. I don't know if that's actually true or not. I couldn't find any evidence of this guy Aldrich actually being a, bona fide in the wool, you know, actual pedo type person or not. I do know that he had a YouTube channel which made very, very shitty YouTube videos about like he would go to those things like those sort of automatic kind of animation studio sites where you it has like a bunch of like weird little cartoons and you could like type in something and then the robot voice would say it and it would like make a little animation like that's he made shit like that and the kind of language that he would use would suggest that the dude to me it sounds very very incelish. He would say things like um in his videos he would say things like giving women scores right, stuff like that, she's only a 10 or you're a cuck or stuff like that or you know beta male shit like that. He would say stuff like that and it kind of makes me think that the dude was like part of the incel culture, right? And when you see a picture of him it kind of looks like he was. So let's see. So in 2015, this guy Aldrich, he was arrested for a stand. He was arrested in a standoff with police because he threatened to burn his mother's house down with a homemade bomb, essentially. For one reason or another, it had something that it doesn't actually say on his in the article that I read why he chose to burn. He wanted to burn their house down, but what ended up happening was that he didn't actually have any explosives on him, and so the police let him go, right? And yeah, so that was kind of a bad decision there, right? And he was charged, like all of his charges were dropped, so this guy kind of got away with it. Um, it's worth noting that before this shooting, this guy Aldrich bought all of his weapons legally himself. So that is kind of a major failure, I think, on the part of the police. Somebody who was in a standoff not even a few years ago with the SWAT team for threatening to murder somebody should not be allowed to buy weapons, in my opinion. That should not be a thing that's allowed. But apparently, the guy comes from a right-wing Trump supporter family. He was a grandson of a MAGA politician named Randy Vopel, right, who is a assemblyman in California 71st district, which that district it covers parts of Riverside and then San Diego County, so down south, but kind of the very very rural parts of those like mountainous areas where not a lot of people live. So outside of the big cities in California, it's very much conservative. Like the major cities in California are all very liberal and progressive and all that, but outside of the big cities, it's essentially just like living in the country and kind of dominated by Republicans, right? And that's what this guy comes from. Randy Vopel is a definitely insane right winger. He made comments after the January 6th riot in Washington saying that, in support of it, saying that this is Lexington and Concord, the first shots fired against tyranny. So that's the kind of guy his grandpa is. Um, Grandpa Vopel also is very much against LGBTQ people. He voted against um, LGBTQ legislation, including a bill to let trans people update their names and genders on their marriage licenses and children's birth certificates, which to my knowledge actually passed in California, so fuck you, Randy Vopel. He's associated with a group called the Judeo-Christian Caucus, which an organization that lobbies against what they call LGBTQ indoctrination. So, apple doesn't seem to fall very far from the tree in the Vopel family. Vopel is his mother's, father. So, pretty bad stuff. Here's the thing about this shooting, right? This guy, Anderson, has apparently come out as non binary, according to his lawyers. And the Republicans are having a field day with that, laughing and all this other stuff, saying, oh, you can't say he's one of us, he's non binary, you have to respect his pronouns and all that. First off, it kind of sounds like looking at the guy's history, of not just of him being an insane maniac, but of looking at the dude's YouTube videos, which a couple are. His YouTube channel is down, but search around, you can find some of his videos. There's a few on, actually, there's one on Encyclopedia Dramatica. And there's a few more floating around because this happened, if you guys know where to. The more unsavory parts of the internet, people are saving and linking them and stuff like that. Yeah, the guy does not sound like, someone who is in support of LGBTQ causes at all. Doesn't even sound like somebody who is, non binary. If anything, the dude sounds like an incel, is what he sounds like. Right. And when you see a picture of him, I think you'll agree. Let's take a look at the dude. All right, let's go. Let me open up a article here, and so that we can just take a look at what he looks like, right? So let's see, Anderson Lee Alder, Aldridtch. Fucking weird ass name. Okay, Aldridge. All right. So let's see. Are they gonna show me his picture? Here it is. Okay, let's go to that. Go to the goddamn picture, please. Thank you. So, this is from Twitter. I have of course canceled my Twitter because Musk brought back Donald Trump, even though Trump has not posted yet. So, let's turn this on. I said I was going to do it if Trump came back, and I did it, and I haven't looked back. But this is the picture of the guy, Anderson Lee Aldridge, right? You can see he got his ass beat because what happened was that in the shooting, a 42-year-old veteran tackled him, beat the crap out of him, and then a trans woman came up and started stomping him in the face with her high heels. And it's funny because the news reports will say that this was a drag queen, right? And they forgot to mention that the drag queen was trans. And it's funny how even in a news story about how trans people and drag queens and gay people were murdered because of discrimination and hatred, they still are unable to frame a trans woman in a positive light. A trans woman apparently can't be a hero. I don't know why. I don't know why. Seems like every article I find forgets to mention the fact that the drag queen that stomped on this guy's face was also trans. I don't know why they leave that detail out. Sounds like discrimination. But anyway, this is a picture of the guy. Yeah, he got the living crap beat out of him, and good. One thing you'll notice here is look at the shape of this dude's head. The back of his head is a little flat. And it's funny, my wife pointed this out to me. Right. His head's flat like that. Well, where does that come from? That comes from when you basically leave a baby in a crib and you don't pick it up and you don't handle it and you don't but it's just basically laying there on its back all day, every day. Right. And from not being handled, right? It's not definitive proof, but it's sort of like circumstantial evidence of child abuse, is what that is, right? Basically shows if they couldn't pay enough attention to him when he was a kid, laying in his crib crying, how do you think they treated this guy growing up, right? Now I'm not trying to make excuses for the dude, okay? He got the shit kicked out of him and he deserved it. And he's going to spend the rest of his life being, basically behind bars and all of the shitty things that come with that, and he deserves every second of it. And I wouldn't even be, Colorado doesn't have a death penalty, so lucky him. But, I'm one of those people that, although I don't really support the death penalty, I'm not gonna go out and hold a sign in protest if they wanted to execute this guy. I think I think if we're going to execute people, then mass murderers who target minority groups should be among those people who we execute. That's just me. I'm not going to die on that hill. That's just my opinion. I'm not going to try to convince anybody that my opinion is right there. Just saying, if you were going to, well, let's just say it, murder someone. If you were going to allow the state to murder someone, because that is what, capital punishment is, it's state sanctioned murder, right? If we're going to allow that, maybe you kill the people that go on murder sprees and shoot people and target gay people and minorities and stuff like that. Maybe we should do that. But I'm just saying, that's fine. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna argue with anybody over that, whatever, right? So I'm not making excuses for the dude, but I am saying it kind of seems like he did not have a very good time growing up. And the fact that his skull is misshapen because his parents couldn't be bothered to cuddle him and hold him when he was a child kind of is evidence of that, I would say, right? So, yeah, this dude is not, kind of looks like he had some stuff stacked against him to begin with. Um, so, one very other little bit of interesting evidence in that regard is the guy's father. His name is Aaron Brink, right? Excuse me for a second here. Had to burp. Okay. I'm sure you've probably all seen this dude's interview, Aaron Brink. Um, and I kind of wanted to go over it because you only see snippets of it, right? And I want to go little bit deeper just to kind of show that, some things are not exactly clear with this guy, right? So let me just sort of turn some stuff on. Let's turn on this. This is Aaron Brink, who is the father of the mass shooter, right? Let me lock that one. Make this a little bigger. I'll put this down in the chat so you guys can see it later. We're not going to watch this entire thing because it's pretty long. It's a good 20 minutes, right? But here's the thing there. Let's see. New, a dating online. Remove. Thank you. Fatman TV, thank you for joining. Or War Criminals, yes. I have no problem executing War Criminals either. You know. Lose that Hedgehog, sign up with Tribal Social. Yes, I will. I went to download it, and I couldn't find it in the App Store. I have Android, so I'll take a look again. I am gonna use Tribal Social. I will. I promise. I also signed up for Mastodon too because that's where they said everybody's going. But we'll see how that goes. Here's the thing, folks. Right, a little aside before we get into before we start watching this interview here. Right. Here's the thing. Right. I got rid of Twitter. I barely tweeted to begin with. Right. But when I did tweet, I did notice that I had a little bit of engagement. Once in a while, I'd usually get a certain number of impressions and stuff like that, and people would respond to me, that kind of thing, right? And I even had a couple of tweets that kind of took off, and actually had a lot of impressions and stuff like that. A few. I didn't have anything with millions of whatever. I mean, I think I had less than 100 followers or something like that. And that's fine. But then Elon Musk shows up, right? And even before he starts letting all the Nazis back on, because it wasn't just Trump that he let back on. He let back on Milo Yiannopoulos, and he's going to let back on Alex Jones, and He's doing a general amnesty for everyone who was kicked. So that also includes people like Alex Jones. That includes fucking Nick Fuentes. It includes all of the neo-Nazi assholes that all got kicked. They're all coming back, and then he lets on Donald Trump, right? And so even before all of that, I noticed that my engagements went to like zero. So I would tweet something, and I'd get like two impressions, and that's it. And it's like, is this because I'm not paying him the $8, right? Because I'm not gonna pay this motherfucker any money. And if that's the case, if I have to pay him $8 so people just see, and even the people who are subscribed to me aren't even seeing it. You know what I mean? Usually I would get like you can count the number of impressions, and then you see I have this many people subbed, and you should get at least these many impressions. I was getting like so it means that even the people who are subbed to me, the people who were interested in what I had to say, weren't seeing my tweets. So, well, what's the fucking point of having it if not only will people like are all these assholes who I don't like are gonna be on it, but then like fucking like when I tweet something, nobody fucking sees what I tweet in the first place, and I'm gonna have to pay this guy for that. Fuck that. I'm not paying him. So yeah, I mean, literally, all I really used Twitter for anyway was to like yell at people and like yell at politicians and tell Marjorie Taylor Greene to fuck off and shit like that. Like that's really the only thing I used it for, to be honest. And I think the only tweet I actually am proud of is the one that got Jordan Peterson to ban me, and I couldn't find it. I think it got deleted. Right? I didn't delete it. I was very proud of it. I said something to the effect of I think the tweet was something like this. It said it was like Jordan Peterson was crying over something, and I tweeted to him, "Butthurt Peterson is like when the something like this. I can't remember exactly what it was. Butthurt Peterson is like when the school bully when the police officer who used to be the school bully pulls over the high school principal. 5 letter, 5 syllable Scrabble words come out in between threats to call one's mother or something like that, right? Like it was worded a lot better than that because you only have a certain number of characters in Twitter. And I said that to Jordan Peterson, and that got me banned, and I was very proud of that because Jordan Peterson blocked me. That means that somebody, either him or somebody on his staff, read that tweet, and I was very happy about that. And that's literally the only tweet I gave a fuck about, and I couldn't find it. And so I don't know. Would they just delete your tweets if a famous person gets like butthurt over it? I don't know, maybe. So, but I don't know. I'll join these two other things. Maybe one day I notice that Trump is not tweeting because like I guess he has a fucking non-compete. You know, with because of his own like fucking Twitter ripoff, whatever, True Social, that kind of thing. And that's fine, but I'm still not going back. I don't care. It's like it's what's the fucking point if like none of this shit if no one's gonna read what I fucking write there, like even the people that are sub to me are not gonna see what I write, then why am I even fucking here? The whole point is so people can social media is so that people can engage with you. That's the whole fucking point of it. So fuck it. Like I don't know. Kind of hope Twitter goes out of fucking business now. You know, Here's the real shitty thing about Twitter, folks, is that like it was fine until Elon Musk showed up, right? It was doing fine. I mean, it wasn't making a lot of money, but it was staying afloat. It was coming out ahead every month. He shows up, fucks everything up, and now the real losers are the people who worked at Twitter. Now, all those people who had jobs have to find new jobs now. And there's going to be a portion of them. I mean, most of them are like, are like developers and stuff who are in demand. But there may be a portion of those people who don't recover from this, who are like depending on this job and they needed it for one reason or another, and now like may end up going through serious hard times because fucking Elon Musk decided to be an asshole, buy their fucking company, and throw them out. You know what I mean? That's the real fucked up part. So hopefully, I hope all the people that got fired from Twitter recently, and all the other people who are going to lose their jobs once Elon Musk fucking runs that shit into the ground because he's a goddamn moron. I hope they all manage to recover nicely. I hope they manage to land on their feet. I hope they manage to get new jobs. Elon Musk will be fucking fine. He's the richest man on earth. You know, and that's the real shitty thing about it is that you can think about that. You could be doing fine at a job you like. Maybe you really like the job, whatever. You're doing great. You're making money. Suddenly, some rich asshole shows up, fucks everything up, and your life is screwed up now because of his fucking ego. You know, that's the real infuriating thing about it. This is the real reason why people say that billionaires should like not be allowed. It's not ethically like you know it's not ethically like responsible to allow billionaires, and they should be outlawed. And it's like when you see shit like this, it's like, yeah, well, maybe they got a point. Maybe some rich piece of shit shouldn't be allowed to show up and destroy the fucking company that you work for just to like placate his fucking like you know placate his small dick and his ego. I don't know. It's fucked up all around. Anyway, let's get on with the stream here. Sorry, that was a little bit of a side there. Maybe I should just do reaction videos when this shit happens, and that way I won't have to cut into my stream like that. But, let's see here. Lewis the Hedgehog, possibly the worst part of it are all the assholes cheering him on as he runs Twitter underground. Exactly. The right wingers like it because now they get to say the N word again, and all of their fucking Nazi friends are back. You know what I mean? It's like it's fucking bullshit. I don't know. That's another thing. I don't want to subject myself to that shit anymore. I don't want to be on a social media that at least doesn't have the decency to kick white supremacists off. Who wants that? I don't want to. I don't give a fuck about that. And like, I know that all the advertisers don't want that either. So, here's hoping that by this time next month, fucking Elon Musk is like putting boards on the windows of that place because fuck those people. Anyway, enough of that. Enough about Twitter. We're here to talk about Aaron Brink. So this is the father of the mass shooter. I'm not going to play this entire thing, but what time we got? Well, let's see. We started. Yeah, we're only going to go till 10:30. So let's start off at the beginning and just sort of like comment a little. So I'm not going to play this entire thing, but I do want to skip ahead to around excuse me, right around here. It was at roughly 10 minutes in, I think. Right about right there. So this is somewhat, all of this other shit is actually interesting. Like I kind of watched through some of this interview. The guy's an interesting guy, but he's kind of a scumbag. And then right about here is where the controversial part of this interview happens, right? So
he did. I don't want him to be. He's gone. He's history. If he did this, they're probably. I mean, they have like special circumstances for stuff like this, and involving social circumstances, you never know what happens. Right? So I want my son to live a healthy life and hopefully not. Shit, man.
So his attorneys called you.
Yes,
sir. And they said your son wants to talk with you. Why did they call you?
He didn't actually. They didn't say he wants to talk to me. They said that it happened. Can you believe what happened? They started telling me about the incident. There was a shooting involving, multiple people.
Right.
And then later on going to find it's a gay bar.
Yeah, right. And
I was like, oh my God, is he gay? I was scared. Oh my God, shit, is he gay? And he's not gay. So it's like this.
Well, you guys had conversation.
So that was kind of the big controversy about this interview, right? Here's a guy that, as far as we all know, didn't have much of a relationship with his son, right? Here's about his son going into a gay bar, murdering 5 people and injuring 17 others, right? And first thing he thinks is, oh, he went into a gay bar. Thank God he's not gay. That's the first thing this guy thought. And you're like, kind of shows, that to me does not show a very loving father, does not show a very loving family relationship, right? Apparently, this guy here, Aaron Brink, has had a very checkered past as well. Has a bit of a criminal record here and there. Is an ex-drug addict, right? Says that he's currently sober, although from watching this video, kind of seems like he isn't. It kind of seems like he's doing that junkie dance. You know what I mean? When you see junkies and they're just sort of all over the place like that, with a little twitching and muscle movements. Although he does say later in this interview that that is because of injuries that he sustained in his MMA career. So that's the thing. Yeah, apparently he's an MMA coach and an ex porn star. Who did scenes for Brazzers and stuff like that. Doesn't seem like the most loving father, wouldn't you say? I mean, if that, I'm pretty sure if I went and murdered, 5 people with a rifle and now going to spend the rest of my life in prison, pretty sure the first thing my dad would say would not be, oh, thank God he isn't gay. I'm pretty sure that, my dad is not liberal or progressive or a Democrat by any stretch of the imagination. My dad is conservative, right? I mean, he's an ex-cop, and lots of things come with someone who's an ex-cop, right? Lots of discrimination, right? Got a lot of that growing up from my dad. So my dad is not a nice person in any, when it comes to that kind of thing. Me and my dad do not share political views at all, right? But that is not a reaction I would get from him. That's not what he would say. He would not say, thank God he isn't gay. With confronted with the information that I just murdered a dozen people. He would not say that. And it's kind of shows to me that, yeah, maybe, this dude was not the best, Randy, not the best father. I'm thinking there was probably a lot of child abuse going on here. Once again, not making excuses for Mr. Aldrich at all, but almost at the same time, kind of makes you feel a little sorry for what could have been. Maybe this dude could have turned out okay if he wasn't raised by such a fucking dirtbag. Let's go a little more. So he's very concerned here. Oh, my son went and killed some people. Thank God he's not gay, though. I don't want to put words into the man's mouth. Let's see what else he's got to say.
About that, you were.
Oh yeah,
you
I was
told
adamant.
him. Yeah, you were adamant that gay
I was adamant
is
this ain't
bad.
happening.
Yeah.
I'm a Mormon. I'm a conservative Republican, and we don't do gay. We don't do gay.
Yeah. So when did you first hear about the incident? Before?
He's a Mormon, a conservative Republican, and we don't do gay. Here's the other thing about that, right? Because you're about to hear something. Well, maybe I'll hold off on that for a little bit. I was about to comment on something, but let's let the man talk for a little longer before I comment on that. But just remember, just said he's a conservative Republican and he's Mormon, okay? And they don't do gay. Apparently they do murder. Apparently murder is not too much for them. But gay, that's over the line. So let's go on.
Before the attorney called, you saw it on CNN. What happened?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I still haven't seen it.
How did you learn about the fact that your son was involved?
Right, I learned about that my son is alleged to have been something like this by this attorney. They were yesterday. Literally, they were yesterday. I have no idea,
Gotcha. So you hadn't heard it on the news until the attorney called.
I'm still going to check something. I'm going to look for like a clip or something like that.
Right.
It's interesting to me.
But my point is,
son's like, well, it's a celebrity. I'd say like that, but Jesus God, it's a popular thing. Everybody knows about this.
Oh, my son's a celebrity. I mean, the things this guy cares about. Oh, my son's not gay. Oh, he's on the news. He's a celebrity. He fucking murdered 5 people. He shot 17 more. He's going to prison for the rest of his fucking life. He's not a celebrity, you goddamn moron. He's a criminal. He's a villain. He's notorious. It's not fame. It's not fortune. Your son is not going to the gala, the Met Gala, and taking a date to the Oscars and shit and winning Best Actor. No, that's your son's not winning a Grammy. He's not going to be on the MTV Music Awards. He's not, performing during like the fucking Super Bowl halftime and shit. And like, no, your son is going to prison and is like, gonna be fucking making like prison hooch out of the toilet and eating burritos made out of like compressed fucking top ramen and stuff and trying to avoid being butt raped in the shower. That's what your son's gonna be doing for the rest of his life now, you know. And pretty sure you had a little hand in making that happen. It's unbelievable. It's like I mean just the selfishness rolling off of this person here is really like it doesn't surprise me that he's a conservative Republican and a Mormon with the fact that how fucking selfish this guy is. Doesn't surprise me at all in the slightest. In fact, that fits right in with what I stereotype conservatives and Republicans and Mormons as. I don't know. Sorry, folks. I try to avoid stereotypes in my daily life, but sometimes they just fucking are true. I mean, let's move on.
Can you take us back to his childhood? Because the first 10 years you had him, right?
I had him. When I had him, that's a good times right there. I taught him about, I got my son this, a fight, man on man. You don't go to least your gun, you have to be a man. Separate, don't go starting fights, but if you have to fight hard. And I told him, I showed him how to throw a punch, and he knocked out one, or he assaulted within my first day before my.
Okay, that's good advice. If you have to fight hard. I don't disagree with that. You should always stick up for yourself, and that is part of the role of being a father is teaching your kid to stick up for himself. But there's a difference between sticking up for yourself and being a fucking maniac that goes in and murders a shitload of people, right? Somehow, I don't know if this guy is going to be able to make that distinction, but let's go on.
Request to one of my ex-wife's boyfriends. He was mouthing off, he hit him right in the face, and he did. He hit him on the face. I praised him for violent behavior really early. I showed him that it works. It's instant, and you'll get immediate results. And you'll always get what you want if you're good at fighting.
I praised him for violent behavior at an early age. Now it kind of starts making sense. So first off, the guy's a Mormon, right? So he's saying that he's religious. He's religious enough. Somehow I don't think this guy's going to church very often, but who knows. Religious enough to say in his head during an interview that to identify himself as a believer in Mormonism, which is a legit religion, Hasadega Iboi or whatever, right? And, but also taught his son, that violence works. Have any of you guys ever taken martial arts of any kind? Karate, kickboxing, judo, anything like that? Any kind of martial arts like that. The first thing they teach you when you step into a dojo is avoid the fight. That's the first thing they tell you, right? First thing they say is that if you have to fight, then something went wrong and you shouldn't be fighting, right? And then you learn how to defend yourself, if shit goes wrong. That's any respectable guy who teaches martial arts, sensei or whatever. If they're not teaching you that rule, then there's something wrong with them, because that's every single one that I've ever been to, that I've ever seen. First thing they say, walk away. Do everything you can to not fight, up to and including running. And then you fight when you have to, right? Fighting is a last resort. It's not the first resort. Okay. This guy, religious person, believes in God, believes in Jesus Christ. Mormons believe in Jesus, a version of Jesus. Right. Is that what Jesus tells you? Does Jesus say, punch him in the face? Does Jesus say, fight it, Does Jesus say violence gets you results? No. Doesn't do that at all. I distinctly remember several passages from the Bible where that kind of thing is, expressly forbidden. You are, as a Christian, and the Mormons believe in the Bible as well, even though they have their third part weird ass fan fiction part of the Bible that they created themselves and shit. Right? That's what the Book of Mormon is, essentially fan fiction. But they also believe in part two, the Christian Bible, and everything in it is also considered canon, right? And it distinctly says in the Bible that as a Christian you are to turn the other cheek. Those are words that come from Jesus Christ himself in the Bible. If you believe in Jesus, if you believe Jesus is real and all of this other shit, and you profess to be a Christian, which is what Mormons are, then teaching your kid that violence and fighting gets results and it should be the first thing you do is expressly against what you say you fucking believe, right? And the thing is that doesn't surprise me at all. That is 100% in character for conservative Republicans. Conservative Republicans who are also Christians, that is 100% in character for how they all act. They do the exact opposite of what they say they believe, you know. And it kind of makes you think maybe if this fucking drunken, mushed mouth asshole didn't teach his child to use violence and hate gay people, maybe something else would have happened at that gay bar. You know, it's easy to demonize these people, isn't it? It's easy to turn around and be like, "Oh, he's just crazy." And that's the excuse that all of the Republicans give whenever there's a mass shooter, right? I know I should be drawing right now, but fuck it, I'm just pontificating at the moment. I don't care. I'll draw some more later. That's the excuse they all give whenever there's a mass shooter. They always say the same thing. He's crazy. He's insane. No rational person would do what that guy just did. And they use that, first off, Republicans do that as a way to deflect so that they can, like, not do anything about guns. That's the first reason why they do that. They're deflecting away from the actual problem, is that crazy people are getting guns, and instead are saying he's nuts and this is a mental health problem. It's not a gun control problem. That's the first reason, right? But what that also does is that it ignores the issue. It's like, well, no. Okay, maybe the guy was nuts, right? And I think we would all agree that sane people don't go on murder massacres, right? But something put the idea into this kid's head that gay people were bad. Something put an idea into this kid's head that using violence gets you what you want. And somehow he put two and two together in his brain and said, well, if I use violence against the gay people, then that equals a win-win for me. Somehow that happened. And it seems like in this case, it's not taken a lot of, you know, investigation to find out who that was. You know, these people come from somewhere, right? All of these alt right Nazi people, people who follow guys like fucking Nick Fuentes, and, like, you know, watch Tucker Carlson every night, and who upvote people like Alex Stein and Tim Pool and all that, and Laverne Spicer. People that follow this, spread hate and fear like that, like, they came from somewhere. They didn't just come out of nowhere. They're not all just insane. They're not all crazy people. Plenty of these people you would meet and you would think that they were just normal, and what they are is radicalized. It's like, well, sometimes that radicalization comes from political figures. Sometimes it comes from being online in the wrong parts of the internet, being radicalized through social media. Sometimes things like 4chan, shit like that. Sometimes it comes from bullying, and they want to, it's funny. They make funny memes about black people, about Jewish people, and spread lies through it. Things like the 1350 lie, stuff like that, or that the Jewish people run all the media, shit like that, and they spread all these lies, and it's funny, and it's just a joke. We're just being edgy, whatever, and then people actually fucking believe that shit. Sometimes it comes from your parents. Guess looks like in this case that's where it happened. Even though he didn't live with this guy his whole life, he only lived with him up until a certain age. Well, your early age, those formative years are the most important. Those are where you learn your life lessons. You know, when you're later on in your teenager and shit like that, yeah, okay, you are also capable of learning things, but the advice that sticks with you your entire life is the advice you get from your parents when you're a small child. Do this, always do that. Do your homework, you know. Look both ways before you cross the street. Be nice to people. Be nice to your little sister. Don't fight. Try hard. Don't give up. You can do it if you try. Shit like that. These are the things that get implanted in your head, and for the rest of your life, you follow, even subconsciously sometimes. How many people do you know look and act just like their parents? How many times even there's even been times that where I've found myself where, you can kind of, those of you who have been watching me for a while have probably pieced together that I didn't have the best relationship with my own dad growing up, right? Even though now, when I'm like an adult, it's awesome. We get along fine now because I'm an adult and I don't live with him anymore, right? But you can see, yeah, there were fights and shit when I was a kid, right? And even me myself, I look in the mirror sometimes and I find myself acting or saying something that he said, or laughing a certain way, or watching a movie that he liked, shit like that, listening to music that he would listen to. I find myself doing that. And you're like your parents in ways that you don't truly comprehend. They influence you in ways that you can't consciously identify. And it's because during those formative years you soak shit up. You observe your parents, you imitate them, stuff like that. That's where you learn your formative life lessons. Well, he learned those formative lessons from this fucking asshole who told him to hate people and that violence was the answer. And God knows what other fucking ridiculous nuggets of wisdom this fucking dude passed along. Right? As he was too busy to pick up and cuddle his fucking infant son and let his skull get deformed. I noticed somebody else here, Danacat Love Me. Aaron looks like he has a flat head too. Yeah, he does. And kind of also shows how abuse is something that gets transmitted generationally, you know. And like I've said before, even me in these streams, I've said things to the effect of like, well, I don't think spanking is wrong, stuff like that. It's true, and you know, but you can see here, it's like, well, this is what happens when child abuse goes unchecked, right? Looks like it's generational, almost. I mean, there's a difference between disciplining your child and filling them with hate and fear and who even knows what else. you know, I mean, that's not a hill that I'm going to die on either. I mean, I currently don't have children, so, I'm not going to like argue with anybody over that and try to like make people see my view on that either. I'm just saying, but there's a difference. This is what happened. This is a straight up fucking child abuse. right. Who even knows what that dude had to go through, Aldrich? Right, living with this. And then apparently his mother was a fucking piece of work too. There was some stuff about her making like some false police reports and stuff like that. Right. Just goes to show, folks, it's like it's not all, I mean, you gotta, and then you also think it's like, well, those of you who have children out there, how do you influence those children, Hopefully the best you can do is to prepare them to have a decent life later on, be able to take care of themselves, and hope you don't fuck them up too much, right? I don't know. It's very, very sad. And just in this case, 5 people had to pay for this guy's, like, child, his abusive behavior 5 people had to pay for that with their lives. So 9:43. Let's move on a little bit. Anyway, this guy here, he goes on to say that because he looks like he's on drugs and said, I notice here, Fat Man TV says meth mouth. He says that he has these ticks and movement jitters and stuff because of injuries he sustained during MMA. I don't see any reason to not believe the guy. Let's turn this off, right? I don't see any reason not to believe the guy. Although I've never seen that myself personally. I've never seen somebody suffer a head injury and then show the exact same symptoms as someone who's a junkie. And I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I am not a neuropsychologist or whatever the fuck, so I can't say if that's a thing that's possible or not. Seems a little suspicious to me. Seems a little kind of like maybe that guy's making excuses for that, and I don't know. He sort of. You also noticed how he never showed his top teeth. You know, during that whole interview, he was sort of like keeping the top of his mouth closed, like covering his top teeth. That's something else that junkies do, like meth heads and shit like that. Like they do that too because like their teeth will be fucked up, and they don't want to like show them to people, right? So yeah, pretty I don't know, guys. It's pretty fucking like pretty messed up there. Okay, hang on. What we're gonna do here? We're just gonna cut our little mummified dragon out, put that on top of the other thing, right? Because I actually like how this little mummified dragon came out. Oh, it's there. Fix that. Paste this. Let's just call this. Oh, cancel that. Let's rename this layer. Why can I not rename the layer? What the fuck is going on here? Should be able to rename this, but it's not letting me. I don't know why. Whatever. Let's just move it up in front of this. There we go. And this will just be our little mummy dragon dude. That turned out pretty cool. I actually like the way that looks, Anyway. So yeah, I wanted to show you guys a little bit more of the reactions to this, because it's very, very despicable, and even among right-wingers, because you can kind of expect at this point people like Tucker Carlson and like, people like that and people like fucking Tim Pool and Matt Walsh and shit are going to have extremely horrible takes on these things, right? That's just a given at this point, right? This one is particularly bad though, because it seems like they're starting to just like they're bumping the rhetoric up. Let's just make this as actual. This is background 2. No, go away. Background 2. And this should not be background. This should be foreground. Actually, we just call this one witch. There we go. I don't know why that was called background. Paint layer 2. This is the table. Should we keep this table? I don't know. What do you think? Keep the table? Or, yeah, let's see. Let's zoom out here a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, do I want the crystal there? Nah, I think I want to keep the, let's see. I think I want to keep the weird instrument, right? So that can go here. So we need to turn this off. We need to get rid of this carpet. That carpet is looking like crap. Sorry, guys. Just not happening. Toss that. No, wait, here. Toss that. And then we need to take this guy. That's the background. This is table 1. And we need to put the table on top of that. There we go. Move that guy down here. Right. There we go. So we have our little table of instruments. We have a kind of thing in the background, this bookshelf, which should actually be up here. So we need to move the dragon down some. Let's just get rid of this dragon. Probably shouldn't have layered that down. All right, let's do that one more time. Sorry, folks. Just need to. All right, here we go. One, two. We just need to do a little bit of arranging here, and then we will get on with the stream. Okay. Let's move the background to about there. There we go, right? Yeah, about there. And then we'll move the table up to about here, and then we'll take our dragon guy. Oh, wait, wrong one. We'll take our dragon guy, move him about there. That looks about right, right? Okay, merging all of this together. No going back. There we go. Now we have to clean all this up. All right. Anyway, so yeah. I wanted to show you guys now. Let's see, we got any more comments here to read here? Let's read a few comments. Let's see. What do we got here? Lewis the Hedgehog, it's like Pizzagate all over again. Yeah. The same is true for red states. Cities are progressive, rural countryside is conservative. Yeah, I guess so. It just happens that the people in the cities, there's not enough of them yet. And that's why you're starting to see some red states kind of turn purple, turn blue. Things like Texas and Georgia. Georgia is very much a swing state now. Georgia was not a swing state for a very long time. It was consistently red as far as senators and House reps went. So that's kind of good. Let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog, can that also cause brain damage? The skull shape thing? Um, I don't know. I don't know if it can or not. I know child abuse at an early age can cause developmental problems. I don't know about brain damage per se, because brain damage is kind of very specific, But for sure, things you know, attitude problems, learning disabilities, things like that. Like when a child is abused at a very young age like that, things like social anxiety, um, problems controlling their anger issues. They'll lash out at stuff like that. They tend to bully other children. That kind of thing. That's all shit that can come from child abuse at an early age. Child abuse, and then where one parent is super abusive, and then also when parents don't insufficiently discipline their children and put limits on them, can also kind of create those types of problems as well. So it's kind of a balancing act, right? But for sure, things like anger issues, for example, that's a classic child abuse symptom of child abuse. You know what I mean? Where the kid feels powerless at home, so when they're at school or something like that, they lash out at other children. Bullying and anger issues are a classic symptom of child abuse, because then they go home and they're afraid and shit like that, and they bottle it all up, and then they take it out on their classmates, or they take it out on the neighbor kid or something like that. That's definitely a thing, and kind of fits the pattern. I mean, who's the kind of person that grows up and shoots up a fucking nightclub? Seems like that fits right in, wouldn't you say? Lewis the Hedgehog. Oh wait, Dynacat loves me. Drill is staying. Drill? I'm not sure who you're talking about. Lewis the Hedgehog, they did something with the algorithms. I think you mean on Twitter. Yes, they did. They definitely did something on the algorithms, and I think Musk said that Elon Musk said that's what he was going to do. He said that if you didn't pay him the $8, then your tweets were going to be put at the bottom of the list, and no one would ever see them. Because he's an idiot. Because he thought that the bots and the spam bots and the trolls won't pay the money. But guess what? they have no problem paying his ass money so that they can stay up at the top, right? So that's exactly what happened. Yeah, so all my fucking tweets went to the bottom of the fucking barrel because I'm not gonna pay this asshole. Is like, you know, that's fucking bullshit, right? Let's see. You know what? You know something? We need to move this. This is you can't even see this. Like I drew this like you know bookcase here, and now it's completely behind the. No, it should be over there like that. There we go. There we go. It should be like that. All right. Now I got to clean all that up because that looks like shit. But that's okay. We'll just move that down now. There we go. Let's see. Dynacat. Aaron looks flat-headed too. Yes, we already said that one. Lives a hedgehog, and possibly the worst part of it is that all the assholes cheering him on as he runs Twitter into the ground. Yeah, yeah, lots of people like all of the fucking like Nazis and trolls and shit are back and they're enjoying it. And it's like, all right, well, guys, enjoy it while you can, because it's going away. Here's what's gonna happen to Twitter, right? It's either gonna run out of business, right? Like he's either gonna run it into the ground, all the advertisers are gonna leave, and they're gonna end up folding up shop because they can't keep the lights on because he keeps firing everybody. Or he's gonna realize the only way Twitter can make money is if he kicks all these people off that he allowed back on, because no advertiser is going to advertise if your social media is overrun with white supremacists as Nazis. They're not going to. Who's going to spend their money at a place where it's like toxic, where every time you log on, people are like shouting the N word and stuff like that, and like fucking bullying people, and it gets a reputation for things like things like libs of TikTok. There you go. Perfect example of an account that bullies people. Didn't actually libs of TikTok like tweeted some shit about the Q bar where this massacre took place. I mean, is that a coincidence? We have no way of knowing if like this guy Aldrich followed libs of TikTok and actually went and targeted this place because they tweeted about it. We don't know if he's responsible. Does kind of seem like a little bit of a coincidence, though, wouldn't you say? It's like, oh, this notorious troll account targets this bar, and then a few months later, a fucking madman shows up and shoots a bunch of people in it. Just a quinky dink, I guess, right? God damn, I am like really thirsty, but that's okay. We'll keep going. Um, Dynacat loves me. To be honest, if the kid pleaded insanity, I'd probably buy it. Well, there's certain things that they have to prove if he's gonna plead. Um, because it's not you're not saying innocent. You're basically when you plead insanity, you're basically saying that I'm too insane to be held accountable for my actions. It's like you know, incompetent due to like mental, due to insanity, right? And yeah, he would just spend the rest of his life in a mental institution, you know, or something like that. I know it's different depending on what state you're in. In some states, they put you into you go into a mental institution until you're deemed competent to stand trial, and then you stand trial. So it's like not even something that you would just have to just be there forever if you didn't want to go to prison, right? So you're just trading one prison out for another. And I mean, I don't know if I would want to stay in a mental hospital for the rest of my life or a prison. I guess a mental hospital would be better, but you're still restricted. You still got guards and all this other shit. So I don't know. I don't think that. I don't mean who. I don't know if the guy's insane or not. I mean, it could be he is, but I don't like that. That's the thing. I don't because it's almost like it's like an excuse almost. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. He very well could be. I'm not gonna. I'm just speculating at this point. I'm not gonna say whether he is or isn't. It's just that I just don't like that. I don't like the idea that every time a person goes and shoots somebody in a mass shooting that we just say that he's crazy and move on. It's like, well, no, he got that way. You know, he did this for a reason. Somebody radicalized him. I mean, there are plenty of crazy people out there. There are plenty of people with mental illness out there who don't go on murder sprees. You know what I mean? Like, so what's the guy have? You know, what is he, like, bipolar or something? There are millions of bipolar people out there who aren't like insane fucking murderers who take guns and go into bars and shoot people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I think that's almost like an excuse. Like, he was just crazy. Well, lots of people are crazy. That doesn't make them all fucking. You know, they don't all engage in massacres. You know. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm pretty sure that when he goes to trial, it's gonna be a big media circus, and maybe he will plead insanity. Lose a hedgehog, and yet Republicans also keep voting against funding for mental health services. Yes, because it's an excuse for them. They don't actually give a shit about mental health. They just use that as an excuse so that they don't have to pass any gun legislation. That's what it really is. So when you see Ted Cruz saying that, the real reason this is all a health problem, blah 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 blah, it's like, well, what then? The next question should be, well, Ted Cruz, then what's your solution for the mental health crisis that we have? Because obviously we have one because we have insane people going off and shooting up fucking bars and schools and shit. So what's your solution? And when Ted Cruz doesn't have a solution, like, that's what should happen. Is that should be the next question that the fucking media should immediately ask his ass, and they never do, because it's all bullshit. They don't actually give a fuck. Like, Republicans especially actually do not give a fuck about this. They're using that as an excuse. They know that they'll never pass any actual legislation, anti-gun legislation, nothing like that. They're never gonna actually ever do it. It's like saying thoughts and prayers. So, thoughts and prayers. Yeah, guy went in and shot up 27 people at a fucking, like, bar mitzvah. Thoughts and prayers for those poor kids. It's like basically saying that I don't give a shit is what that means to me. You know, whenever I hear thoughts and prayers, it really means, like, I'm just gonna give you this horseshit platitude and not actually do anything about it. Because the only people that can, that's the really shitty thing, is that the only people who can really do anything about this are fucking politicians. Right? That's really it. I mean, I don't know. It's shitty situation all around. Let's continue on here. Sorry, I'm fucking getting a little spaced here because I need some water. I'm gonna take 10 seconds and I'm gonna go get a glass of water. I will be right back. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're back. Sorry about that. If I don't drink some water, I'm gonna, like, die of fucking thirst over here. Okay, cool. All right. So, wanted to show a couple of things here because the reaction to this shooter, I think, is something that needs to be explored because we've got some serious problems. Let me just kind of move some stuff over and arrange things here. And let's see, let's make that super high. So let's see here. I need to make some stuff bigger because for some reason the screenshots that I'm doing. All right. First thing I want to talk about is, what the hell is her name here? I got it written down. Jamie Mitchell. Right. Jamie Mitchell was on Tucker Carlson justifying this stuff. Right. Who is Jamie Mitchell? Well, she is a gay person. And I wrote a bunch of stuff down that is not here anymore. She's kind of a social media influencer. Let me go ahead and turn on my laptop window here, and let's make this bigger so you guys can see the tweets here. I just took screenshots of these tweets because I don't want to actually go to them. Right. So these are the screenshots I took. This is Jamie Mitchell, right, who is was on Tucker Carlson talking about, and she's in a group that's like gays against grooming, I think it's what it's called, right? And just to kind of show you, like, she was on Tucker Carlson talking about how, we need to stop the trans agenda, all this other crap. Very, very turfy kind of stuff. So these are some tweets from Jamie Mitchell here. Did I actually write? Let's see. Nope, I didn't put down the link to the interview. But you know what? I'll put it in after the stream. I will go and put a link to the interview that I was gonna show. But anyway, Jamie Mitchell here is yeah, gays against grooming. Here's a tweet that Jamie Mitchell did where she's spreading basically white supremacist talking points, right? So here we have a guy named Markel Harriet who is having a little Twitter back and forth with Matt Walsh, right? Talking about crime and stuff like that. You know, Jamie Mitchell's response to this is despite making up only 13% of the population, blacks commit 50% of the crime. The 1350 meme, right? This is someone who is in supposedly in LGBTQ circles, right? Who is spreading anti-trans, in response to the shooting, who went on Tucker Carlson and basically defended the shooter. Just to kind of show you as an example that it's not always, just the fact that you're gay, the fact that you're trans or whatever doesn't automatically make you progressive. It doesn't automatically make you a liberal. It doesn't make you a decent person automatically. Plenty of gay and trans and other, type people are capable of being assholes. So, let's just delete that one. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't mean to do that. Undo. How do I undo that? Did not mean to delete that entire thing. Sorry, guys. Why do I just delete? Fuck it, whatever. Next one here. I've got same person. This is Jamie Mitchell as well. All right, let's make this bigger here. I'm tired of TikToks. I want handcuffs and public hangings. Right? This is her in support of murdering public officials. Right? So, in response to Matt Gaetz. Okay, here's Jamie Mitchell here, spreading the Great Replacement theory. Let's delete this one as well. Delete that. God damn it. That's not what I wanted to do. Maybe I should stop deleting these things because they... Why the fuck is it deleting all of it? Can I, undo that? There we go. Undo. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Did not mean to delete this one. I didn't know that was both selected. Here's Jamie. Anyway, Jamie Mitchell supporting the Great Replacement theory. I'm not going to delete it. I'll just put it way over here. The Great Replacement theory is real. Yes, no. What's that? This is Jamie Gulag here spreading anti-Semitic, you know, anti-Semitism, talking about the New World Order, shit like that, talking about George Soros, right? So, and then here's a few more where she is talking about, she's following Lauren Southern, following this guy Scott Greer, white supremacist, and some other people, and also Vincent Fox on her Telegram channel. So just want to give this, this info to her. Here's another one where she's talking at some Islamic, like Islamophobia, that kind of thing. Why am I bringing Jamie Mitchell up? Besides the fact that she went on Tucker Carlson to defend this shooter and essentially came out and said that using violence against groomers is justified. The reason I'm bringing her up is because the shooter himself came out as non binary, said that he was non binary. And although I don't think that the guy actually is, that's not my place to judge whether he is or not. Even though the theory is that this guy, Aldridge said that he was non-binary so that he wouldn't get charged with a federal hate crime, right? I don't know. I tend to believe it when people say that they identify. He could identify as however he wants. There's no reason for me not to believe him. But I just wanted to point out, just because the guy may be non-binary doesn't mean that he's not an asshole. And it also doesn't mean that he wasn't taught to hate or fear gay people, and still may have decided to go on his murder spree. Him being non-binary has nothing to do with that at all. You know. Another tweet. This is from Laverne Spicer. Our this man right here is a drug addict, and the media is using him to paint a disgusting narrative. Shameful! Exclamation point. In response to Brian Taylor Cohen, who just retweeted the exact same thing that we just watched. Right. Do you think Laverne Spicer gives a fuck that this guy was a drug addict, even though he says he wasn't? If you if you keep watching that interview, right? Aaron Bink there says that he's sober and he's a former meth addict, that he doesn't do meth anymore. So, but even if he was, do you actually think Laverne Spicer actually gives a fuck that the guy was a drug addict? Right? How exactly are we painting a disgusting narrative by just playing the man's interview and drawing your own conclusions? We watched the interview, we watched the relevant part of that interview ourselves. That's exactly what he says. He says that he's a religious person, that he's a Mormon and a conservative Republican, and that he taught his child to, hate gays, that gays are no good, and that he taught his child to use violence. Those are his words, not ours. It is not painting a narrative when you just play someone's own words and allow them to paint their own narrative. It's actually Aaron Brink painting the narrative here and just us pointing it out. And kind of looks like the right wingers here are doing everything they can to twist that around, don't you think? Moving on here, this is Matt Walsh, our favorite fucking complete piece of shit here. People are upset by this thread, so I'm going to retweet and pin it. Leftists are using a mass shooting to try and blackmail us into accepting the castration and sexualization of children. These people are just beyond evil. I have never felt more motivated to oppose everything they stand for with every fiber of my being. Despicable scumbags. You hear that, folks? He's more motivated. The fact that a crazy person who was radicalized by quite possibly Matt Walsh or people like him, as well as his own father, went out and murdered 5 trans people, shot 17 other people, right, at a drag queen event. That just motivates him more, you know. You would think the decent thing to do would be to step back and be like, gee, why did somebody just go murder a bunch of people? Could it be because of the shit that I'm saying? But nope. Matt Walsh likes that. Because people who, this is the exact same shit that Matt Walsh is telling people to do. That's why it's stochastic terrorism, folks. Right. Oh, let's see. A couple of more tweets here. Here's one. Matt Walsh here seems to be giddy, that the very, very giddy like a schoolgirl over the fact that Aldridge came out as non-binary. Breaking: Colorado Cub shooter suspect non-binary, uses they them pronouns from his attorneys. Matt Walsh, and there it is. There's a reason the media wasn't giving us any actual details about this guy or his motive. It's because they wanted to set the narrative before the real truth came out. So, a lot of things wrong with this tweet, right? Because, first off, the media, who is the media? It makes it sound like the media's run by somebody, doesn't it? It makes it sound like someone's controlling the media. You know, maybe a worldwide cabal of people of a certain religion. You know, that's just a little dog whistle that he's throwing out. And you hear lots of politicians say that the mainstream media, the media does this. Donald Trump says that all the time. The media is against us. They're all against me. That kind of thing. That is a anti-Semitic trope. They're basically that's a dog whistle for basically saying the Jews are controlling it, right? Who controls the media, right? From a right-wing worldview, it's the Jews. That's what he's saying. Anti-Semitism. Matt Walsh will deny it up and down, but that's exactly what this is right here, right? They wanted to set the narrative. Who's the they in that? It's the Jews. That's what it is. Before the real truth came out. What's the real truth? Well, the guy's non-binary. Like, it doesn't matter if he's non-binary. Why do people assume that your sexuality or the gender that you express has anything to do with your political views, right? Why? Why do people assume that, right? There are plenty of gay people who are conservative. Milo Yiannopoulos is gay, right? Fucking Dave Rubin is gay, right? Caitlyn Jenner is trans. She's, a trans woman, right? She ran for governor of California as a Republican, right? She wasn't automatically a Democrat. She wasn't, you would think so, and here's why you think it's because, well, Democrats and progressives and stuff are accepting of trans people. Conservatives and Republicans aren't. It makes logical sense which political aisle they would align with, but in real life, that's not how it works. Plenty, thousands of gay people, thousands of trans people are conservative for one reason or another. There's even an organization, the fucking Log Cabin Republicans, gay people who are conservative Republicans who've been trying to get a seat at the table in the GOP for years. And I just read an article not that long ago where they basically gave up because they're being shut out. It's like, yeah, well, what do you fuckers think? These are people that have basically spent their entire political capital demonizing you people, using you as fodder to draw out the bigots and shit so that they'll vote. It's like, do you really think they're gonna allow you to have a seat at the table? No, right? So that's the thing. It doesn't fucking matter the fact that if the guy, even if it's true, and this person, they actually are non-binary, right? Doesn't change the fact that they're an insane murderer. It doesn't change the fact that they were radicalized by family members, it looks like at this point, and also bullied like crazy, stuff like that, right? Doesn't change the fact that they used a lot of incel rhetoric in their YouTube videos, talking about red pilling and shit like that, Doesn't change any of those facts, and it also doesn't change the fact that they specifically went in and targeted gay people and trans people and drag queens that align specifically with rhetoric that people like Matt Walsh are using to make money with every fucking day. Doesn't change any of those facts. So, I don't know why they think this is such a big fucking win, but there you go, Matt. Well, it's because the conservative mind is small and thinks identity politics trumps everything, and it's like, no, identity politics really don't. That identity politics are tangential at best. It's not a good thing to assume that someone is going to vote a certain way or believe a certain thing just because of their race or their religion or their sexual orientation. It's If you assume those things, you're most likely going to be wrong. But Matt Walsh's audience is also as stupid as him, so they're gonna eat this shit up. Moving on. Another one from Matt Walsh. Sorry, but if you're on the left, you have no right to deny the shooter's non-binary identity. You set a precedent here, and we will hold you to it. You have to respect his identity. I don't. You do. These are your rules. Now you take your medicine and shut up. The correct response to this is to say, fuck you. God damn it. What are these fucking, like, spam bots? Get the fuck out of here, spam bot. Report. This is spam. Fuck off. Okay, thank you. Sorry, fucking spam bots. I thought I set slow mode. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? Why, like I just said, I think we just answered this one in the last comment. Pretty much, you know. The guy's gender doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't change the fact of who he was and how he's like super, well, super conservative and came from a conservative family. His grandfather's a fucking MAGA politician, for fuck's sake. Dad basically told him to hate gay people and all this other shit and said that he was a conservative Republican. Doesn't change any of those facts. So, how about, Matt Walsh, you plant your fucking lips right in between my big, hairy, flabby butt cheeks and shut the fuck up. Another one. Matt Walsh, your rules are clear. All self-identities are valid and cannot be questioned ever under any circumstances. Again, your rules, you are stuck with this. The shooter's non-binary. You have no choice but accept it. Sorry. Yes. If someone identifies as something, you should believe them. That's correct. Right? If someone identifies as non-binary, you should believe them. If somebody identifies as a woman or a man or anything in between, or even none at all, or whatever else, you should believe them. Why? Because it's the decent thing to do. That does not automatically make them follow one end of the political spectrum or another. That does not mean you're automatically a liberal or a Democrat or a Republican or anything else, right? Your sexual orientation, your gender expression, your gender identity does not have much to do with your political identity. These are completely different things. And I think it comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what identity politics actually are. From, I mean, black people traditionally vote Democrat, but does that mean all black people are Democrats? No. There are plenty of conservative black people. There are plenty of conservative black people who are bigoted against gays. And trans people. The Latinos, traditionally vote Democrat as well, but not all the time. There are millions and millions of Latinos of all different backgrounds who are conservative Christians who vote Republican. Look at Florida. Huge number of huge Latino population that comes from like Cuba and Puerto Rico and stuff, and they're highly conservative as hell, and that whole state is passing anti-trans laws. It's like, the id poll doesn't add up. Not a lot, not all the time. Your race doesn't determine what your politics are. Your sexual identity, your gender expression, none of that shit determines what your politics are. It does in small-brained conservatives like Matt Walsh, though. See, he's just jumping up and down, giddy as a little schoolgirl and shit, that the guy's non-binary. He thinks that gives him an out, and it doesn't. It doesn't give him an out at all. The fact that this guy was radicalized by conservatives is not changed by his gender expression, like in the slightest. So, anyway, here's one from a guy named Jack Prosebic, who seems to be a super giant asshole. This guy, Jack Prosebic. Once again, talking about the shooter being non-binary. Look how fast they went from it's just pronouns to demanding children be provided to the drag queens. We know where this ends. What the fuck is this guy talking about? Right? This happened after the shooting, November 22nd. Where is the demanding children be provided to drag queens? What the fuck is that? Like, first off, at this event, they announced something in the future, like a drag queen story hour kind of thing, right? At this event that this crazy person went into, well, I don't want to call him crazy, but that this guy Aldridge went to and shot up and killed people, there were no children there. So, why are they using the children defense? There were no children at this event at all. It was a drag show for adults at a bar, 21 and over, where adults were at drinking alcohol and shit like that, right? Why do children have to come into this conversation? Okay. They're what they've done is they've associated the word grooming with anything that has to do with things with trans stuff or anything having to do with drag queens, with drag events, right? They've successfully associated those two things in the minds of their followers. So, whenever one of their followers sees a drag event, even if it's for adults at a bar, which was like the only gay bar in this whole town, by the way, this town, which actually has a history, apparently, of passing like anti-trans, anti-gay legislation in the past, right? This was like the only gay bar in the entire fucking town, and now some asshole went and shot it up. It's like fucking ridiculous. It's like, you know, what these people have to go through to be treated just as human beings. It's like, goddamn, I can't even comprehend it. You know, as a straight, almost white male, not exactly white, but you don't realize how, when they talk about privilege, you don't really realize that shit until, I mean, really think about it. It's like, no one ever tried to fucking blow me away just for existing. Right? Like, seriously, nobody ever tried to pass a law saying, restricting my rights and shit just for existing. Like, I don't know. That's a discussion for another time. And here's the other thing. We know where this ends. Well, where? Why don't you just say it? We know where this ends. What was he trying to? Is he trying to imply like an army of gay people and an army of drag queens, like breaking into a school with like fucking hedge trimmers and running around chopping everybody's nuts off? Like, is that what he's trying to fucking say? Or is he implying that it ends in bloody violence where we just kill all the gay and trans people? Why not you just say that's, it's all dog whistles to these fuckers. It's all, you know, he's just implying it because he's too chicken shit. This guy Jack Prosebiak, he's too chicken shit to straight out say it. You know, because that's what he's doing. He's actually encouraging violence with this. Like, if you were a believer, if you actually believed that gay people and trans people and drag queens and shit were out there grooming your children or whatever, right? How would you read this? We know where this ends, right? How would you read that? You would read it as though they're coming to get my kid. I better go get a shotgun and prepare to defend myself. It's like, fucking, if you just, like, if you read this stuff and you just take 2 seconds to actually think about what these assholes say, it becomes really sinister. It's like, man, maybe Twitter needs to fucking be abolished in order to stop the spread of this kind of like fucking, radicalization, right wing radicalization. I don't know. I'm getting tired. You guys getting tired? Let's move on a few more. I have some from Tim Pool, who's my favorite ball-headed skater boy wannabe ex-liberal guy. Can you guys still hear me here? Okay, good, you can. Tim Pool, here's one. This one was a particularly egregious. Particularly. I will learn how to pronounce that one day. Particularly egregious. Tim Pool, we shouldn't tolerate pedophiles grooming kids. Club Q had a grooming event. How do prevent the violence and stop the grooming? How do prevent you forgot a word there, you idiot. Prevent the violence and stop the grooming. Right. Club Q did not have a grooming event. They had something scheduled in the future. The event that the asshole went in and shot up and killed people at did not have children at it. And look at that. Here's the thing. This is a tweet in response to a massacre. 5 people are dead, right? 17 people were shot and injured. One of the guys that was shot wasn't even in the fucking club. He was like a dude standing like outside who was like caught in the crossfire and got shot. Like just a guy minding his fucking business, like, down the street, hit with a bullet. I don't know if the guy died or whatever. Right. Think about that. Think about you're not even part of the part of the people that were being targeted. Like, think you're just down the street, like, I don't know, waiting for an Uber to show up or some shit. Random fucking bullet comes out of nowhere, paralyzes you. Like, what the hell kind of country is this? Like, this shit like this doesn't happen in other countries. You don't have to worry about some random fucking insane person just blowing you away for no reason in France or in Spain, you know, or in Canada, for fuck's sake. There's plenty of guns in Canada. How come they don't have mass shootings, Or in Texas, in fucking like Japan or like, you know, God, even China. China doesn't have mass shootings. I mean, I know that's not a good example because they have plenty of other things that are fucked up there. But at least they don't have like maniacs breaking into bars and schools and shit with machine guns. How come all of these other countries don't have this problem, but we do? Why? You know? And this is how this guy fucking responds to it. Club Q had a grooming event. So, all right, let's say they did. Let's say they, which is bullshit. It's not grooming, but let's just like pretend this is an alternate universe, and that's what's true. Does that mean it's okay to just go in there and kill them? Right? Does that mean that's fine? Every time you see one of those, you can just go and blow a bunch of people away. They had it coming. Is that what fucking Tim Pool's trying to say here? That these people deserved it? You know? What kind of fucking shit is that? And how come this asshole is still allowed? I mean, if there was any example of stochastic terrorism out there, this is it. This is a perfect example of stochastic terrorism. Club Q had a group. 5 people are dead. Instead of turning around and saying, "Hey, this is wrong. We shouldn't kill people," he's making excuses for it. How do we prevent the violence and stop the grooming? How about Tim Cool? How about you fucking used your Twitter with your fucking like 5 million followers or wherever how fucking many you are, and you say, "Hey assholes, quit shooting up fucking bars and stuff. Quit shooting up schools." How about you fucking say that, huh? How about you take some responsibility for your fucking message, right? With for your platform, take some responsibility with your platform and tell people to stop fucking doing this, because it just seems like more and more of these right-wing assholes that go out and kill people just happen to follow, to be within that demographic that follow people like Tim Pool. Okay. Just so happens it's like so many of them are just like over and over. We keep finding these right wing incels and like fucking insane, like Proud Boy types and shit like that who are just like radicalized by influencers like Tim Pool. You know? I mean, goddamn. We used to hold in this country, we used to hold celebrities and media figures and things like that to a higher standard. It used to be something like a sex scandal could ruin your career. You remember somebody like Pee Wee Herman, for example, Paul Rumens, gets caught jerking it in a fucking movie theater. Career ruined after that. That was it, gone. And now we have guys going on there. We have influencers who are basically making excuses for massacres. How come fucking Tim Pool's career isn't ruined after this? How come we allow him to stay on the air? Like, we used to alienate people in this country for the stupidest fucking shit. You know, as far as I'm concerned, like back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, for sex scandals, for being gay, for all this other crap, for having an illegitimate child, whatever. Shit like that could ruin your career, right? It used to be if you were on the news, or if you were, especially if you were like an anchorman or something like that, or a reporter or something, and you published a story and it turned out not to be true, that ruined your fucking career. Who was the guy that was responsible for the what the fuck was it? There was a guy that the George Bush AWOL story, right? And fucking, was it Ted Koppel or somebody went on there and like basically fucking reported this, and it turned out not to be true. And God, I can't remember the name of the news anchorman, but some news anchorman reported this story about George Bush being AWOL, and it turned out that one of the documents wasn't legit or whatever, and it was Dan Rather. That's who it was. Back in Dan Rather back in like fucking 2006 or something reported this story about George Bush being AWOL when he was in the National Guard, and it turned out one of the documents he got was fake, and that destroyed Dan Rather's career. Like Dan Rather was on the air for like 30 years before that, and was like he was like Ted Koppel. He was like a respected like news anchorman that people trusted, and just the fact that he ran with the story put him off and ruined his career, and he went away, and that was it. You never heard from fucking Dan Rather again after that. Even though there was truth to some of that story, there was truth to the story that George W. Bush like fucking was lazy and shit, and didn't show up a lot of times, but just because they were able to poke holes in that ruined his career. And now we have people like Alex Jones and shit who tell lies every fucking day. We have people like you know um, Tucker Carlson that go up and they tell lies over and over and over. People like Tim Pool, who's not a he says that he's a journalist, but he's not a journalist. He's an influencer. He says that he's an independent journalist. He tells lies constantly. You know, shit that's just debunked conspiracy theories over and over, fucking rumors and shit that just is not true at all in the slightest, and they do it constantly over and over and over. And what happened? Shit that would ruin people's careers. Why is it like why are they allowed to get away with it? Because they're right wingers. That's why. Because they're fucking conservatives. They're right wingers. They're conservatives, and they're not held to any standard at all. Because conservatives don't give a shit about the actual truth. They just care about fucking poning the libs or whatever. It's bullshit. Another one. Tim Pool. Remember when they had kids reading porn and then they claim Republicans are just banning books? They're trying to gaslight you. Fuck them. They are groomers. This is after the massacre, folks. First off, there were no stories of kids reading porn. That's bullshit. What that comes from is that there was one graphic novel that had like a scene of like oral sex in it, right? And what it was a graphic novel that was made for adults, and it ended up in a high school library because the librarian didn't read it. They just assumed that it was like a comic book, and so they put it in there, and it had a scene of like oral sex in it, and it's like it's not porn. First off, it's like fucking. First off, it was like an autobiographical thing that was like serious, and it was made for adults. It was something like Mouse. Mouse is a graphic novel made for adults, for example, that has to deal with the Holocaust and shit like that. It was something like that, and it's like that was one thing. So it wasn't porn. It was serious subject matter, and to be honest, what's so wrong about a kid reading about that? What's the fucking problem? I will never understand why, the hang-ups with like sex that this country has. They're perfectly fine if there was a graphic novel with plenty of violence in it. If it was like Spawn or something with people's spines getting ripped out and their like brains getting like dashed against the walls, and like if it was like that, if it was like the Punisher or like Spawn or like some other bloody ass dirty hairy kind of evil Ernie type guy that just massacres people, that would be fine. They wouldn't give a fuck about that. But since it has sexual like discussions of sexual contact, even if it's held in a mature way, suddenly that's inappropriate for fucking children. Whatever, right? I don't know. I mean, I'll never understand the puritanness of this country when it comes to these things. You know, there's nothing wrong with allowing children to explore sexuality as long as it's done in a legal way, right? As long as it's done responsibly in a legal way, and you impart to them that use protection, shit like that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, right? And there's nothing wrong with discussing with teenagers, people who are 15, 16, 17, 18, right, who are in high school about how they should not be ashamed for, you know, being gay, right, and exploring their sexuality in that way. With there's that should not be a thing in my opinion. That should be illegal, and it's not porn. Especially not porn when it's like drawn and when it's in a graphic novel that's held treated in a respectful manner. You know, I mean, there is such a thing as like porn like comics and shit. I'm not Rule 34 or crap like that. This book was not one of them. I'm not going to link to it because I don't want to show pictures of it on my YouTube because it'll get reported and shit. But that's what this comes from. It's like when he's basically saying kids reading porn, he's lying to you. Kids were not reading porn. It was one, and the thing is, it was one. They found one example of this graphic novel in a library, and they took it out immediately after they saw what it was. Some parent complained, and they got rid of it. What's the fucking problem? It looks like the system's working, right? And then the rest of this, they're trying to gaslight you. Fuck them, they're groomers. 5 people are dead. This maniac went and shot 5 people. Shot, well, 23 people. Killed 5 of them. This is Tim Pool's fucking response to the deaths of 5 people. So fuck them. Let's fuck them. Those 5 people that died, fuck their families, right? Fuck their mothers and their fathers and their brothers and sisters who now have, a relative who's dead, gone completely, gone kaput, out of here. Fuck them too. How about fuck Tim Pool? How about that? Right. This is like, because people read this. I just want everyone to understand what this guy's actually saying here, right? I just want people to understand what Tim Pool's actually saying here. Fuck the victims. That's what his message is, right? Why are we allowing these people to influence? Why are we allowing them on the largest fucking social media network in the world like this? Like, this is why I got rid of my Twitter, because I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to like financially support Elon Musk in any way whatsoever, even if that comes from ad impressions. I don't want to be a part of that at all. Fuck Tim Pool and fuck everybody who likes Tim Pool. Another one. This is a nobody. This guy. He was replying to Tim Pool, and I thought I would put this here because I wanted to kind of use him as an example, because this was just one of the dudes who responded to Tim Pool, and I wanted to kind of use him as an example of how this is the rank and file and how fast they are to anger. Look at what this guy's saying. I want to see justice. This gets my blood blowing, and my instinct is to end them. But I have to have faith in the justice system, which I have little faith in these days. I believe we're on the right road, though. Soon all will be made clear to all. My instinct is to end them. So this is after the massacre, right? After the massacre, after Tim Pool doubles down on trans hate, right? And justifies the murder of 5 people, his followers are going along with it. The rank and file are going along with it 100%. My instinct is to end them, right? I believe we're on the right road, though. 5 people just got murdered. That's the right road. They don't care, folks. The whole point is they want trans people, they want gay people to die. That's what it is. We're hitting that point real fast, I mean, I'm thinking we're getting really fucking close to like mass violence, because this is what it reads like. When you go and you look at this is why I go on places like the seedy parts of Reddit, and like places like the Encyclopedia Dramatica forums and shit like that, and like Kiwi Farms, and I lurk these places. I never post in them because I don't want to. No, fuck that. But I lurk in these places, and 4chan and places like fucking the libertarian subreddits, and read the comments of people from like Tim Pool and like fucking Tucker Carlson and shit, right? Because I want to get a sense of what are these people like, you know, what are they thinking? What are they gonna do? And this is what I keep encountering over and over again: is that extremely violent rhetoric. You know, my instinct is to end them. We're on the right road. You know, I keep seeing this over and over and over, and it's like, I don't know. Is it gonna end up being mass violence? Are we gonna see roving fucking like gangs of like you know right wingers armed with fucking AR-15s and shit, dragging people out of houses and murdering everybody that they think is gay? Like, I doubt. I don't know. I don't know. I could easily see this being harnessed though by a political figure, uh, a Trump-like figure. I don't think they'd do it for Trump, but I could easily see a fascist political figure harnessing this movement and turning them all into brown shirts. I could easily see that happening, and that's what I'm more afraid of. I'm more afraid of somebody kind of capitalizing on this, using it to get elected, and then like fucking destroying America with it and trying to turn us into a fascist hellhole. You know, I could easily see that being a thing that happens in one of the darker alternate futures. Let's hope that never comes to pass, but who knows, right? Okay. Anyway, I had some other shit. I was gonna talk about Alex Stein a little, but maybe we'll save him for next time. Here's the video that I was going to read. Alex Stein is a guy that aligns with let's fucking turn this shit off here. Sorry guys. Alex Stein is a guy that aligns with like fucking you know with like Nick Fuentes and that sort of group, like Nazi type guys. And he's like, what the right wing considers a comedian. All he does is he goes and he just laughs at people and makes a fool of himself, and he's a fucking idiot. But maybe we'll save that for later. Let's read a few comments and then I gotta end this because I'm fucking tired, guys. I ate way too much turkey again today. I had like second Thanksgiving today. Reading more comments. All right. Let's see. Lewis the Hedgehog. They also seem to forget the cops tend to act like risk adverse predators when it comes to dealing with criminals. Maybe that has something to do with it. Uh, yeah. Mm. Lewis the Hedgehog. It's like being opposed to LGBTQIA plus rights because the actions of Jeffrey Dahmer. Yes. Yeah, that's what I don't get, man. I mean, I think that's what's making this more dangerous, right? Like, in the past, when a maniac went out and shot a bunch of people, they would at least give lip service. You know, even the recent past, they would at least give lip service and say violence is never the answer and all that other crap, right? And it seems like this time they didn't even do that, and that is what makes it doubly scary. It's like they didn't do it because they feel like they don't have to, you know. They feel like they don't need to anymore. They feel like they can get away with just being mask off fucking Christofascists. And that's the disturbing part. That's what makes me think that, well, maybe we're fucking like heading towards like actual like large like mass violence against like gay and trans people. If people like Tim Pool and like fucking Jack Proziak and Pro Basic or whatever the fuck that dude's name is, and Lauren Spicer, if people like that feel like they can get away with not at least condemning the shooter, then like I think we're in some serious trouble as a country, right? Because how long before you get like a politician that doesn't condemn the violence and then actually encourages it? And then you have people like Elon Musk who are too chicken shit to ban these people, to keep them off of the largest fucking like social media site in the world, so they continue to spread their shit around. I mean, this can go south pretty quick. So I don't know. Bad news, I think. Very, very bad news. Lose a hedgehog. It was a rare thing, but I heard that there were even a few Jewish people who supported Hitler, just like the black people who sided with the slavers. Um, you do sort of get that. What do they call that? That Nightingale effect or whatever. Like, kind of like when Patty Hearst was kidnapped by some terrorist group, like the fucking Lebanese whatever army or whatever they were called, and then ended up joining them. You know, I did read about that myself too. Like there were certain Jewish people that, like for example, were in during the Holocaust, were like who were put in charge of running the camps, and they sort of like would do things like sew Nazi patches onto their clothes and stuff because they were treated better than everybody else. They got better food, they got better clothes, that kind of thing, and a little bit of like freedom. There was a movie about that. Star and fucking what the fuck was the guy's name? I can't remember the actor, but there was a movie about the one camp that ever revolted, which was actually pretty good. And like they staged a revolt and blew up one of the ovens or whatever, and then all of them got executed. Right, but kind of showed it. It was just like these guys were actually eating well and stuff like that, and they had what they thought were important jobs, and kind of despicable. I don't know. There's always going to be people like that. But you're exactly right. It's. I don't think that's an unfair analogy to make. Somebody who's like, say, for example, who's gay and who votes Republican. I think that's a pretty good analogy to say like, yeah, you're sort of like a black person who sides with the slavers. You're sort of like a Jewish person who sided with the Nazis. Like, you're the token minority that they're all going to use in order to score political points and claim that they're not racist. Kind of the same thing like, you're seeing right now. For example, there's a video out there of Kanye West went to go have dinner with Donald Trump and brought Nick Fuentes with him, and now Donald Trump's freaking out, trying to distance himself from Kanye West or whatever, you know, and it's because fucking Nick Fuentes. Why is Nick Fuentes hanging out with Kanye West? He doesn't like black people. Why is he hanging out with him? Because he's using them as a way to claim that he's not racist. So he's like, I'm not racist. I just believe in America first. Because you see, I'm hanging out with a black guy who just happens to hate Jews as much as I do. Like, it's like you know, the fucking they're starting to align with each other. I mean, I don't know. Kanye West has 0% chance of actually being president, so I think that shit's hilarious. But kind of goes to show, it's like it's mutual. Like they have no problem. Like the white supremacists have no problem using minorities to further along their narratives. Anyway. Uh. Anyway, Dan Rather is still on Twitter though. Yes, he is. But Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, that's what it is. Stockholm syndrome. Syndrome. You're exactly right. Yeah, Dan Rather is still on Twitter, but Dan Rather used to be like kind of one of the trusted names in news. You know what I mean? Like he was one of the big names that he had the show that 20 million people would log into every day, or tune into every day. One of the head, like, I think it was with NBC. He was one of the head anchormen with NBC, and that story, the George Bush AWOL story, fucking ruined his career, and he kind of retired early because of that. I mean, he already had he was already rich and famous, and so he just retired because it's like it destroyed his reputation because one of the documents wasn't legit, even though the story itself is true. George Bush, like, you know, had a very spotty record, with his time in the National Guard, and he would just disappear for weeks on end and shit, not show up, that kind of thing, right? That part was true, but it's because one of the documents didn't pass the muster that fucking Dan Rather had to retire in shame. We don't do that anymore, man. We don't do that, especially when it comes to right wingers. When it comes to people like Tucker Carlson, Tucker Carlson can has the biggest show on cable news and says things that are not true on a consistent basis over and over and over, and fucking gets away with it constantly. You know, how come we don't hold him to the same standard? I don't know. Anyway, guys, I gotta get out of here. I'm fucking tired. This is why I don't stream at night. I usually stream in the daytime. Couldn't be avoided. I had to do a second Thanksgiving today, and eat way too much. So it was for a good cause. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna head up on out of here. You guys see the links down in the chat. I have a web comic and I have an Etsy shop and I have a bunch of other shit. So if you like what I do, please like and subscribe and buy something from my Etsy shop. Didn't get much done today, but I'm gonna work on this background a little bit so that next time we can just start coloring. It looks like the bottom shelf here. I need to fix that. That shelf looks fucked up. Um, but thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming this late at night, even though I didn't do my usual time. Looks like I actually got more people this time than I usually get, so that's kind of cool. Thank you, Fat Man TV. Thank you, Lewis the Hedgehog. Great to see you. Thank you, Kelly, for joining, and also anybody else. Dynacat loves me as well. You guys are awesome, and I will try to stream again during the middle of the week. One thing I'm doing is thinking of setting up a Discord because I actually got a request to set up a Discord. So I'll look into that. I don't know if it's the right thing to do because I don't have time to moderate it. But I'm thinking maybe I might be able to get a couple of other creators to join it with me. In particular, my friend Inshoma has his own channel. If you guys don't know, please check out my friend Inshoma on YouTube as well. And I'm thinking maybe if I could get a few people to go in and on it with me, then we might be able to set up a Discord, and then that way you guys can get notifications and stuff when I go live. So I don't know. I will let you all know about that next time. So anyway, guys, thank you all so much. Adios. I will see you all later.